Great, thank you so much. I just have to say, I've never spoken on a stage covered in flower petals, and I kind of was just thinking, like, don't sweep them up. This would have been special. So, anyway, my name's Rob Daley. I'm the co-founder and CEO of a company called 4Moms, and as mentioned, we make really high-tech baby gear. Our products are sold in 37 countries around the globe, sold in over 600 retailers in the US. Capital partners include folks like Bain Capital and Newell Rubbermaid. But that's not really what I want to talk to you about. First of all, it's not about what we've done, it's about how we've gotten there. The other thing is that I'd much rather talk to you about games. And the reason I'd rather talk to you about games is that games are a whole lot more entertaining than baby products. And I know this. So the thing about games, I've always been fascinated by games. I've had a fascination with games since I was a kid. And games come in lots of different forms. There are board games, and card games, and sport games, sporting events. The thing about games is that all games have exactly two things in common. And that is a game is a pursuit where you have a desired outcome. That's what a game is. And that pursuit is actually governed by a set of rules. And the way that you win any game is you need to understand the rules better than your competitors or whoever it is that you're kind of competing with in order to try to reach that desired outcome. Now, sometimes those rules are really explicit. Like in the game of chess, how the pieces move is a very explicit rule. But there are things that are implicit in some of those rules, like, for example, how you might want to trade pieces for position. But the common theme is that it's only by divining these rules that you can actually understand how to win. And what I would propose to you all is that with that definition of a game, everything is actually a game. All things in life are a game. And certainly when we think about the pursuit of romance between co-eds, the desired outcome might be quite obvious, where the rules that govern how you achieve that outcome might be less so. And the same thing's true in terms of how we deal with our interactions with our friends and our family, and also in business. And that if you're going to succeed, you need to understand what the rules are that govern the game that you're in order to win, or you just need to be fantastically lucky. And I would say that life and these pursuits are far too important to leave for chance. So I think Morpheus said it best when he said that the matrix is governed by a system of rules. And it's only by understanding those rules that we can actually bend or achieve them. So it's an easy thing to say that we want to understand what these rules are. The question is, how can we divine what all of the rules are that we need to follow or try to optimize? And the good news is that there's a trail of breadcrumbs available for us that we can study, and we can look at people that have been fantastically successful and try to understand what is it that they've done and how is it they've been able to achieve these great things. So if we think about folks in the area of invention or in areas of business, what is it that has enabled them to be so outlandishly successful and have this opportunity to make such a great impact on world events? So in the upper left, there's an image of Thomas Edison, the guy holding the light bulb, obviously Edison. And arguably, Thomas Edison is the greatest inventor of all time. And for the moment, just kind of go with me and let's just say that he is the greatest inventor of all time. And the question is, why is that? How is it that he is able to achieve that unique kind of throne among the billions of people that have walked the planet before and since? Right? Now, clearly, Thomas Edison was brilliant, and he was hardworking, and he was persistent, and he had a whole lot of really fantastic human qualities. But was that intersection of qualities so unique and kind of beyond the grasp of 7 billion other human beings? And the answer is, of course not, right? The reason that Thomas Edison is so successful and holds this title of greatest inventor of all time, at least in my mind, is that he did have this fantastic set of human traits, but he happened to be able to bring those traits to bear at a time when electricity was being commercialized, right? And it's the commercialization of electricity that enables a great individual like Thomas Edison to have this outsized contribution on world events. And the same thing's true as you kind of go down the line here, as you think about J.P. Morgan and the creation of a whole new form of energy, or Henry Ford and his decision to apply mass manufacturing to the development of automobiles, or Gates or Bezos or the Google guys, and kind of what's happened with the computer revolution or the internet revolution. All of these people individually have fantastic attributes associated with them, for sure, and I'm taking nothing away from them individually. But the reason that their contribution to history is outsized is because the world was changing around them. And they were able to take advantage of that change. And it really comes to this idea that it is change, in fact, that creates opportunity in the world. And there's a phenomenon that has been taking place in the recent history of our lifetimes that I think has an equally great opportunity to change the world. And we've seen it happening, but we may not have quite realized the magnitude of it. So there's a concept called Moore's Law, and Moore's Law is not new, but what Moore's Law says is that the cost of a given level of computing power declines by 50% every 18 months. And this is something that has been true back throughout kind of the annals of history, technology history. It goes back to the 1960s. And it has this idea that there's this march between technology going from tens of dollars to tens of dimes. And when Henry Thorne and I started For Moms, what we focused in on was this Moore's Law trend, and that there was something very special that actually happened in the early part of this new century. And that is, for the first time in history, tens of dollars of computing power was actually powerful. And you could do great things with tens of dollars, and that had never happened before. And as tens of dollars was poised to become tens of dimes, it could be and can be revolutionary to established industries that have never used electronics before. And that's what we set out to do. And we had this bent towards robotics. We come from a robotics background. And the thing about robotics is that they are not what you think they are. And this idea of the humanoid robot it's a multi-million-dollar challenge to solve $20 problems. And from a commercialization standpoint, it's not where you want to live. But there's some really, really cool things that you can do once you've got that idea. So we started with this kind of kernel of opportunity is what drives change. Change what drives opportunity. Moore's laws hit this important crux, and we can use robotics technology. But what are we going to do with it? And the idea was that we were going to make dramatically better products. Not different, not better, but dramatically better. And the threshold for dramatically better is that every industry, every category has one single most important attribute. There are lots of things that matter, there are lots of things that are important, but there can be one and only one most important thing. And if you can redefine the most important thing in a category, that's how you can be dramatically better, as opposed to just better. So let me give you a couple of examples. So this is the For Moms Mamaru. It's an infant seat, which means you put kids in it, but you don't want to hold them. And the infant seat category, for the sake of the obvious. So the infant seat market is really broken into two categories, at least before the Mamaru showed up it was. There were bouncy seats, which are seats that actually vibrate, and there are swings. But what's interesting is that parents don't move that way. Parents actually have this natural bouncing and swaying motion that they go through. And if you see with each of these moms on their back, you'll see this little red box on them. And that little red box is actually a 3-axis accelerometer. And we use that in order to study the motions that the moms made when they were comforting their infants. And if the reason that you buy an infant seat is that no matter how much you love your child, you can't hold them all the time. And when you put them down, you want them to be soothed or entertained so you can do something like prepare a meal or read a book or take a shower or do whatever it is that you want to do. And so if we can better replicate those motions that parents make, then we can actually have a better product in the category, and we can redefine what those attributes should be. So this is actually the Mamaru. It exists, it's, like I said, sold in 37 countries around the world. And it actually replicates those bouncing and swaying motions that parents make when they comfort their infants. So there are 5 different motion profiles built into the Mamaru. Each one of those intended to replicate some of the different motions that we found parents make when they comfort their babies. And it's been a fantastically successful product for us. So another industry that we focused on was the stroller industry. And what's interesting about strollers is that they haven't fundamentally changed since your parents were pushed around in them. And that either means that the product is perfect or there's an opportunity to make it better. So this is our stroller. It's called the Origami. And in order to fold it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this little dial on the back, and I'm going to push a button, and then the stroller is going to do all the work. Right? It's pretty cool. Thanks. And then in reverse, we just do the same thing. We just turn the dial, and we just push a button, and the stroller takes care of everything else. So we like to say that you don't have manual windows in your car, and yet rolling up your windows is a far sight easier than opening or closing a stroller. So we developed the Origami. It's the world's first power folding stroller. It also has generators built in the rear wheels. So as you push the stroller, it actually generates power, and keeps itself fully charged. And that charging system is so efficient that we actually have these daytime running lights on the front legs. The first step to avoiding an accident is being seen. And then on the front of the stroller, there are these lights that come on in low light conditions and actually light the path in front of you. And there's even a LCD display, and you can hook up a cell phone and charge your cell phone actually as you're pushing it around. Yeah. So I'm not saying that this is the world's most innovative stroller because it's the first stroller to do all 6 of these things. I'm saying it's the world's most innovative stroller because it's the first stroller to do any one of these things. So it's a product that we're fantastically proud of. So I'll give you one last example, which is that there's a category called portable infant cribs. And portable infant cribs are portable, so they are designed to open and close. The video that you see running behind me is actually a race that we held, where we've got 2 pregnant women and a pediatrician trying to open and close a play yard in the shortest period of time. So the winning time on that video in that contest was actually 3 minutes and 12 seconds. So this is a category that was created in 1986. It does a few $100 million in revenue in the US, and all of the products that are made are based on that same single folding platform. This is actually the first human-powered robot that we've done. It's actually a robot, but in order to open our version of the play yard, you just simply push down, and you're done, right? Thanks. And then in reverse, the same thing. We just kind of grab this little tab, and we pull up, and it closes, and it's all just taken care of. So it's the idea of using technology and thinking about these systems and how we can actually go after established markets and redefine what they are. Excuse me. The last thing that I want to leave you with in terms of thinking about how to actually get these things done is that you cannot do anything by yourself. And if Henry and I had remained the only 2 people at 4 Moms, we would not have accomplished a fraction of what we've actually done. And it's only because we've got a fantastic team of people that are doing great things that enable the company to do great things. And as you're thinking about going out into the world, it is really, really hard to be an army of one. And if you can be an army of many, and you can have great people around you, that's how you can actually do great things. So the summary is that this change is what drives opportunity, and this Moore's Law 2.0 is something that's going to be a special thing in our lifetimes. And we need to think about the fact that robots aren't what we need to think of them as. We don't recognize them as. If you're going to do something, you should be dramatically better. In order to do that, you need to focus on this one most important thing, and you can't do it by yourself. Now, I started the talk today by referring to this idea of rules. And I said that everything is a game. And that might feel like a little bit of an overreach to some. But what I would offer for you all is that we're all playing a game. And the game that we're playing is actually the game of life. And there is, in fact, one rule. And it's really, really easy to divine. And the rule is that you take 78 and you subtract your age, and you multiply that by 365. And what you're left with is roughly the number of days that you should expect to have left. And each one of those days goes by every 24 hours, and you see it happen. And you can choose either to let those days go by, or you can choose to do something great. Now, what's awesome about the game of life is that although this is the rule we all have to live with, we all get to define what winning means. That desired pursuit is something that each one of us gets to set. Now, I'll tell you that my number is 1,270, and I can't change my age and I can't change 365, but I'm really, really hoping that that number 78 has some wiggle room in it. So about 2 years ago, I started running marathons in the hopes that I can push that number up. So if you're going to go out and you're going to try to do something great, I want to share some words with you that have really been inspirational to me. And the first are Albert Einstein, who said, most of the things I've worried about in my life never came true. And I think that that's a real truism, that all of us spend time worrying about stuff that just simply never happens. If you're going to start a company, there is nothing more important than the wise advice of Journey, which is to not stop believing. And I'll tell you that when you go out into the world and you try to do something different, you try to make a change, and you try to do something great, there are 2 things that happen that are surprising. The first is that everyone who loves you tells you or advises you that you shouldn't or maybe you shouldn't. And the reason is that they love you and they're afraid for you. And the second thing that happens is that people who don't love themselves tell you not to do it because they're afraid you'll succeed. And it'll make them feel bad. So you've got to find conviction in yourself, and you've got to hold on to that. The last is that I feel that most people don't get off the couch because they're afraid. And you've got to push fear aside and go out in the world and try to do great things, because there's no reason to do anything less. And it's really, really hard to get off the couch, but you got to find a way to do it. And lastly, in the words of Eminem, if you had a chance to seize everything, would you do it or would you let it slip? So this has been a great day for me. I appreciate you guys taking your time, and thank you all very much.